You know what? I said I wasn't going to give this truck a hard time, but it's so much fun to drive.
Hey, it's Vas here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to my review of the CEN Racing Reeper. Now this is a huge 1/7 scale, perhaps even a 1/6 scale, four-wheel drive brushless monster truck that is capable of running on either a 4S or 6S. Now this truck came to me from CEN Racing directly, and it was really due to my viewers who wanted me to review a CEN Racing product. And what better way to do it than of course to have a look at their latest and greatest monster truck, which is the Reeper that you see here. Now I'm actually pretty impressed with the Reeper overall. It does have a few things that I'm going to be criticizing on the truck, and hopefully CEN will go back and review those and perhaps improve them for future releases. But there shouldn't be any surprises here for them. Pretty much everything that I'm going to say they already know about, and I hope that in the future I can definitely review more of these CEN Racing products and do some more cool little projects with them, because I really like this truck. I think that the truck has a lot of potential. It needs a few little tweaks, but it's almost there. I think the end result will be very pleasant for most of you, especially those who are big CEN Racing fans. So let's kick this review off with the electrics, as I always do. For the electrics, I gave this one a 4 out of 5. The only thing that really lets this truck down is the stock steering servo, which is a bit weak and lacks a little bit of torque. But for the most part, the electrics on this truck are actually very good. Motor and ESC are plenty powerful for it. However, the motor does get a little bit hot, so just keep that in mind if you are planning to gear up this truck. You may need to install a fan on the motor or something like that to try and keep temperatures at bay, because it does run a little bit hot, especially on 6S. The remote that this comes with is this guy right here, which runs on, I believe it's 4 AA's from memory. Yeah, so it runs on 4 AA's, and it's actually a pretty good remote. I haven't had any issues with range or anything like that. It's got a few cool features on it. Certainly not the my favorite remote of all time, but not the worst by any means, and it does the job perfectly. I really don't have anything to complain about as far as the remote goes. Now moving on to Drivetrain, I have to give this one full marks on Drivetrain. It's a 5 out of 5 from me. I haven't had any issues with dog bones, bearings, outdrive cups, diffs, gears, or anything of the sort. Drivetrain on the truck is super solid, super strong, and I know that there's quite a number of people out there that have actually upgraded their existing RCs and modified them to be able to put these CEN diffs in, and without a doubt, these diffs should hold on for the life of the truck and beyond, because no issues, no clicking noises, no nothing. The Drivetrain on the truck, solid as a hammer. Can't really complain about this one. Moving on to handling. Now for handling, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5, only because the suspension setup out of the box was a little off. The truck was really bouncy. It was bottoming out quite a bit when I was doing some jumps. It needed some heavier shock oil and perhaps even some slightly heavier springs, or maybe just some longer springs that maybe were a little bit softer. So the tuning wasn't quite right, I felt. Tyres, surprisingly, were actually pretty good, although these aren't the stock tyres, but the stock tyres that it came with were actually decent. And the truck doesn't really have too much of a tendency to want to tip over. It actually handled pretty well, especially when I was putting it into the corners and seeing how, if it was going to be top heavy and want to tip over all the time. It didn't do that. It actually handled it itself quite well, and I really don't have too much to complain about as far as the handling goes. Durability, to be honest, I can't remember if I even broke anything on this thing. The only thing I can really complain about is the shock shafts, which were actually bent. All 4 of them have been bent. Now I do believe that CEN have actually updated their shock shafts, and they should be a little bit harder wearing. But the stock ones that I got with this truck, they all bent after my initial first few runs, which was a little bit of a shame. And I think it was mainly due to the torture test that I put it through over at the BMX track, because since then, or before then, I didn't notice any shock shafts being bent, and since then they've been fine. So just keep in mind that if you are going to abuse this truck, you may end up with some bent shock shafts. I do believe that CEN have some upgraded ones. So yeah, take this one with a grain of salt, but 4 out of 5 for durability is the best I can do at this stage. Maintenance. For this one, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, and there's a couple of reasons. Obviously, this is a twin vertical plate chassis, which is going to make it a little bit tricky to work on in some aspects because everything is wedged in between the twin vertical plates. But really, what I'm really more upset about is that the shocks are constantly leaking, and mainly leaking from the bottom of the shock cap. So this requires a lot of maintenance on the vehicle because you constantly have to be cleaning it, you have to be refueling the shocks with oil, and that's a little bit of a letdown. So hopefully CEN Racing will address this issue and stop the shocks from leaking so badly, because I'm not the only one that's had this problem. I've seen several people online complaining about leaky shocks, and yeah, this is something that needs to be addressed by CEN and rectified immediately, I believe. So the best I can do on this one is a 3 out of 5 for maintenance. Moving on to part support. Now I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5, but I want you to take this again with a grain of salt, because if I was to rate it purely based here in Australia, I would only give it a 1 out of 5. The reason being is because I have not even been able to find anywhere here in Australia where the CEN Reeper is sold, and that's as of the time of filming. So if you're watching this 6 months from now and there's dealers everywhere in this country, well, obviously my review here is going to be a little bit off. But at the moment, the best I can do is a 3, and that's really only because there are quite a few dealers overseas that you can get parts from, and I've even seen a few people here in Australia buy the Colossus XT from overseas. But getting the Reaper locally is actually becoming really tough. This truck, as I said, I've had it since February, and I still haven't seen anybody have one of these on the shelf. Now, perhaps they're not on the web. Maybe they I don't know, they don't have internet, and I can't see anywhere where people are selling the Reaper. But I know that there are CEN dealers out there and CEN retailers, so I don't know why the Reaper is not on the shelves and why it's not a lot easier to get it here in Australia as of yet. Maybe I'm missing something. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. But it seems like this truck and the branding itself is a little bit more popular overseas in certain parts of the world. But I would love to see a little bit more support for it here, because it is a very good truck. And I know this brand's been around for many years, and there's actually quite a few people here in Australia that have had some of the old CEN Matrix vehicles and the GSTE, I believe. There are CEN dealers out there. The brand is well known here in the country, but it's just, I don't see the Reaper anywhere. I don't know why that is. Hopefully that will get rectified, and then part support, the scoring for that will get a little bit better. But at the moment, 3 out of 5 is the best I can do. Value. Now, again, I can't really rate this truck here in Australia because it's not for sale. I don't know what it's worth. It could be worth 600, it could be worth 1,000. I don't know what it could be worth here in Australia. But for value, I'm actually going to give it a 4 out of 5, and that's really based on the US dollar value, because I've seen this truck, I think, for sale for as cheap as about $500 or $550, and then people get discounts and all this sort of stuff, and they get it for under $500. I mean, that is a steal for a truck this big that performs this well. So I have to give it a 4 out of 5 for value. I think it's exceptional. So good on CEN. Hopefully when it becomes available here in Australia, it's reasonably priced as well, and I don't have to knock the value score down. But we'll see how we go. Maybe the value score will go down by 1. Maybe the part support will go up by 1. So maybe the overall score won't change all that much. But for me, the overall score for this one is a 27 out of a potential 35, which equates to 77.14% out of 100. And that's almost an 8 out of 10. And you know what? That's a really good score for this truck. And aside from a few little things that really need to be improved upon, such perhaps a slightly thicker body, some better quality body posts where you don't have these little antennas sticking out everywhere, just something that finishes a little bit neater would be nice. And obviously shocks that don't leak would definitely be a huge bonus, along with a better steering servo. CEN is definitely onto a winner here. I really can't falter the truck too heavily, although there are some things that a little bit need to be improved upon. For the most part, I'm really happy with it, and at the end of the day, this drives just like a 1/8 scale monster truck. It's agile, it's fast, it pops wheelies, you can do the backflips and all that sort of stuff. although not as aggressively as some of the shorter wheelbase monster trucks, but it still does the odd backflip here and there, and it's fun to drive. It's good to see a nice big truck like this head out to the local bash spot, because it does turn some heads. It's a little bit different, and it looks great. I really don't have too much to complain about with the CEN Reeper. So good on CEN. Hopefully they like this score, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the video and the review. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button rather. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and click that little bell so that you're up to date with all my latest videos. As always, check out the video description down below for more information on the truck, as well as links to its previous videos and a link to my Facebook page. I thank you all very much for watching, and I'll speak to you next time.